What's up everyone, welcome back to a new video on the Alien Amber channel. Today we will be going over the markets again, per usual. So with that having said, let's get straight into it, right? So we'll start at the Bitcoin chart. I won't be going over stocks, but yeah, all of them look to be rotational right now, which they are just chopping and not really clearing resistance. So they just seem to be chopping around, could be a little bit of a range today. But talking about BTC, normally I make these videos right after that New York Open, so I can put a little trade inside these videos. But I have some business to take care of later today, so I won't be able to make the video later in the day, so I will make it right now. So the thing that we previously were looking at is that daily open logic, right? So here we had a daily open at 2 o'clock again. And right again, where do we get that impulse, guys? I really can't make it harder for you. Yeah, so here again, we have that daily open. It becomes a resistance initially. When it breaks, that impulse starts, right? You see it becomes resistance at first. It breaks, it flips, and we get an impulse. So keep this logic in mind. But the thing we were talking about yesterday, price was trading right around here when I made the video. So what do we get? Because I was leaning a little bit towards the downside, but like usual, we are looking at both sides. So I had a clear invalidation for that lower time frame range to be a distribution where we rotate first back to the downside, or a continuation pattern where we break out from. Because logically, we had an initial break from this consolidation, right? Which also, again, was that previous resistance right there. So from this is where we made that first impulse, right? And the thing I pointed out is, what do you want to see? You want to see a compression, and then the compression should break if you want to trade it towards downside, right? So what do you really see that happened? I'll go onto the volume chart for this because I've made most drawings here yesterday. That if we go onto that volume chart, what level were we looking at? We already had broken out of this, so price was trading right around here at the end of the video. So yet again, you see how these extension levels work. Right there, right there, right there, and right there. You hit all those extensions, you form a new range. Right, then we make the new range as the extension, of course. So this logic we have been doing throughout the whole day yesterday. So how does this really look like? You see here the range, the extension targets. So what do you do when there's a new range being made? You again get that Fibonacci tool and you put it like this, and you have your extension targets again. Right, later, new range gets formed. So how do we play this again? We have those extensions yet again, right? And the move was so explosive that all of these extensions have been filled. So the point I was talking about yesterday, that this could be a distributional range, was because we were building value here, right? So we did not want to see price push below this, because if this would have happened, this would likely have been that local top. But instead of breaking down from this, it's quite clear that we broke with volume, right? So you continue that break. What do you have after? A new compression, right? And here you make a low, you are unable to push through that low, and you start to grind up slowly again. We get a second impulse again from that logical break point. And what did we do here again? Build value. Right, so this is something you wanted to see being held, because otherwise you would expect a rotation immediately into this zone. So from now, we already extended even further. It's a thing that I pointed out with a friend of mine, is that right around here, we had this massive candle, right? And I was seeing some slow PA right here, so I was like, this can become a range. And here it became that range, which we again, I keep repeating this pattern, and I won't keep repeating it that often, but I will give you guys the chance to understand this pattern. That we have that daily close again, right? So what do we get on the daily close? We have a previous day open. So what do we have here? This is your daily open. So we know that this usually sets up for a sort of reversion trade, either this side, and then later it violates the idea. So in this case, we first went up a little bit into that daily close, made a reversion towards the downside, taking out this wick, and here again, we build some compression. What do we see after? We flip that daily open and we get another impulse move. So I wanted to point that out real quick again with that daily opening logic. People by now really should understand how here it worked, here it did, and yet again here it did the exact same. So I want you guys to keep those patterns in mind where you have that daily open and you make a fake move initially and then you end up breaking it, right? You can study it from the charts, just to go into the 1 day chart, put your mouse here, you see the open and close price at the top of your screen, put a line there and backtest this shit for yourself. So when we are looking at this right now, I do think that this is something to be a bit mindful for. We did not touch this last extension, but we also are building again a new range with one anomaly at the upside. So how will we be playing this, right? So I deem this to be that newly found range. And to make this a bit cleaner again, I'll remove all the shit. Now it really does not matter that much. Since it played out already. So, okay, we're back. Wait, I'll leave that daily open actually. Because if we go down, this could be a potential support on the lower time frame. So what are we currently looking at? I did not want this to actually. I want this one. Where we now build the range based upon volume. So we see right here that value area high, value area low, POC, right? So what is your exact low of that range currently? It is right around there. So I will be drawing a box there on this initial dump candle, which is that point where we reverse from. So if this gets a sweep and reclaim, all good, right? Then if we get some shit like this, yet all good. If we start to roll over below this, guys, and we don't reclaim, we should go down from this point. Why? Just look at what is being formed. This really looks quite logical that we start to form this type of pattern. I call it the Burj Khalifa, where you have multiple steps on the way up. You have compressions, break, compression, break, compression, break, and you end up forming a head and shoulders pattern at the highs. So how can we try to play this? Let's say you get the breakdown, right? Because I want to make you guys understand how you can calculate this to snipe that entry, that if this right shoulder is actually made, that we get a sniper entry with it. So this little is going to be gone. Okay. So let's say the market actually breaks this, right? And we start to break below, and here we have an initial point that we are bouncing from. This is all hypothetical, right, guys, for now. So what do we do then? We do this, we get that range, we find that newly made pivot that will be made on the break. So note this scenario only is valid if this range starts to break down. And then we have a newly made pivot, whether that low will be here, 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 or here, nobody fucking knows, right? But let's assume for now it will be here, because this allows me to explain this concept a little bit easier. Oh, fuck. this one, right? Okay, so now that we have known that price broke down and has traded into here, we want to see where can it go now. So this has been made at pivot, price is starting to move up again, right? So now we'll be looking at that 0.5 and that 0.75. So if price does some shit like this here, we would like to trade it back to the downside. If it does something like this, even better, right? Then we can play it towards the downside. So if we get a logical pullback, find that newly made pivot at the low, put your fib as the range, and then find your 0.75, 0.5, 0.75, and 1 point level. And then if we get any pullbacks into this, that is your trigger to short that shit. And then where's your invalidation? Let's say price trades into here. That means you're shorting it right around here. So then this can be your invalidation. So that stop will also be quite tight, where we have the opportunity to snipe it literally. Because let's say price trades like this, then this will be that invalidation, right? So we can make a very tiny invalidation in these types of trades when we compare it to the upside. And now let's say it goes higher, of course, we take it there, right? So wanted to point that out real quick. That will be the bear case, that if we get this type of pattern, it will be quite likely to make a lower high first and then get a massive flood instead. So point that out real quick. Right now, I'm really not bullish looking at this. Yeah, it's just a little bit dumb to be a bull here. So let's hope that New York Open does some logical reversion. But yet again, that New York Open is within any time, and that could be this, could also be this, right? Where we get a little fake move, and then we make that real move. That fake move, real move, right? We don't know which side yet. Just watch these range levels, which should be quite clear on the chart. So when we look at this from a higher time frame perspective, I forgot to add this into the video yesterday. It's only on my, I do this on a second profile. So on my main account, I did have these levels sitting right here. But I forgot to add this into the video yesterday, where I will first point out where these levels are coming from. We had this range here, which I concluded to be a range. So this high to this low. And then here we had that sweep and reclaims where it confirmed this to be a range for me. And here we also see how these levels have been respected. That 0.25 has been reclaimed, impulse 0.5 has been broken, impulse where it first held a bit of a resistance, next day breaks, later gets retested, right? So we see how these levels already have been respected. So that range high clearly has been respected previously, and here yet again, and then it started breaking out. So then we use the same logic as shown on those lower time frame fibs, but now we have pointed it out from a way bigger range. So what do we get? Just use this fib. If I have a range like this, the extensions are small. If I have a range like this, the extensions are a lot further. So we only can do this on a valid range, right? So we had this prior range. What are those extension levels? You should see them on the chart right here. But now I want to point out this interesting part, that if we look to the left from these levels, you see that on that extension, we broke this point, retested this point, held it, next impulse, broke it, deviated right below it, quickly reclaimed, and a next impulse. And we currently seem to be getting rejected on that third point, right? So I do think a pullback is highly likely from this point, right? I won't be saying you guys to go bullish or even look for longs, because it's just a little bit dumb. But like I stated, a thing that would be logical is to hedge a little bit and perhaps even short some Bitcoin. But ETH just looks way stronger. So I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive so you guys are prepared a little bit better for. and the macro and those lower time frames. So now that we have had BTC, let's get into ETH. For ETH, we had the same logic where we had lower time frame compression, which we did not want to see it fall below that 0.5 level, which I will zoom in on a bit, but I will first point out this higher time frame range, where you can see that we have now cleared this level, right? And we get that impulse. And I stated this really is that interesting point, because this also on a higher time frame was your value area high. So I stated that if you manage to flip this zone, I don't see what is holding us back from going right into here. So we're not there yet, but the thing I would be expecting today, well, maybe not today, but at least like the coming week, I expect BTC to go a little bit downwards and form a new range, right? Whether that range low will be made here or whether it will be here, I don't know yet. But we will simply be watching the flows. What I do know, when pullbacks is given, are given, I will be looking at these levels to look for strength, right? And if we don't get any major retraces, I will just fade this move because I don't see what really is that upside versus downside risk here anymore. Unless this level breaks, because then what do we have again? We currently have this as a clear resistance. So let's say price has done some shit like this currently. Let's say it reclaims this, right? And it gets into here. Now even we could trade this break. Why? Because we have a very clear invalidation, which would be this recent made high. So this could be a setup if we end up breaking up, but yeah, the upside versus the downside is really not that great here. So I'm leaning a bit more towards the bearish side, at least for BTC. Like I stated, I want BTC actually to form a new range. And the last time I've talked about BTC, that BTC needs to form a new range is when we were trading right here, yes. So what do we really want to see? BTC ranging and ETH showing strength. So now let's say we get some shit like this, right, where we just chop around in this level and maybe extend even further later onto the month. This really does look like a logical scenario where we just chop around, form a new range, and then during that new range, ETH takes over and alts start popping off even more. So like I stated earlier, I'm really not that bullish on BTC here anymore. At least when you look at the potential upside versus downside, I think the better option is still ETH. Because if we clear this with the second extension, well, it's actually the major extension, then yeah, what is really holding us back to trading to that 3,300 level? Pretty much nothing. So this really looks like that likely case that if BTC starts to go sideways, that ETH will just casually grind up, maybe just do one massive short squeeze to create it as an impulse, where it does some similar shit to right around here. Because I quite vividly remember that BTC was already ranging here. BTC was ranging here. And then ETH had one final move towards the upside before we started to get in that range. So I now think it's a time for BTC to form the range, right? Where we, of course, could hold this lower time frame range, but I don't really think that that is likely. But like I always say, we need to be prepared for both sides, which is also why I am giving you this a higher time frame setup where if we break this, we could play it towards the upside. But yeah, we really need to watch these invalidations because we have a clear stop on both sides. For ETH, it's a little less clear, and here I think the invalidation for bulls should be even more clean there than for bears, because we're almost in a similar situation to this, where we would have this as a logical stop, this as a logical stop. So that also gives a bit of liquidity on the downside. I think we're better off watching BTC for now and then look at ETH on the side. So that we are waiting for BTC to play out the scenarios that we want, and then we execute on ETH instead of BTC, right? So if BTC starts breaking up, I will long ETH. If BTC starts breaking down, I will short BTC, right? Because I don't think shorting the stronger pair is a good idea. So let's get into the last point of today's video, which is that ETH BTC chart again. We are at that 0.75, which we currently seem to be holding. So if we manage to hold this, it's really great. As we see, we had two logical levels for reversion on that ETH BTC, where we either take out this wick or we take out this wick. Well, we clearly took out this wick. Very massive impulse right around, right before that the daily open. So yeah, this is really looking really well, and I'm still more bullish on ETH than on BTC for now. So wanted to point that out real quick. And BTCD, this really seems that we have finally found the acceptance below it, right? So now the question is, will it hold here, 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 here? So we will be playing these levels towards the downside. But I do think we see some more dumping on BTCD and some more pumping on ETH BTC, where there is because you have to think of it like this, right? If I was a BTC holder from here, and now price is here, don't you think I'm going to take profits? Pretty much everyone, even the guys that have bought here at the exact Pico top, like back in January, even they are at 20% profit. Do you guys understand that? So people that are impatient and big players will both be TPing here. And then they will be looking at, where can I position my money now? Where will it make the best ROI? Meaning return on investment, right? And then they will be looking at this. Oh shit, this isn't even at all-time high yet. And I think that that will give the gas to push ETH a little bit higher than BTC right now. But I did state, I do think this should be a bit rotationary, right? Where this will be trading into a range, while ETH maybe gives a slight pullback, but then it will start bumping anyways. So this really could look like something like this. Wait, let me explain this right. So we have ETH and we have BTC. So now let's say that we are right here. So I'll quickly draw this this sort of top. 1 point, 2 points, and 3, right? So now let's say BTC does something like this, and here we start to chop around, right? And only then later, very later, I think, we maybe get a next impulse and then some shit like this. I think for ETH will more be currently trading already like this, where instead of us making a lower high, we have made a higher high. And I do think that if we rotate down, that ETH, of course, will follow BTC, but I think it won't be that deep. Right? I think we will be forming some sort of bottom with a very shallow pullback. And maybe take out this, right? Because ETH does like to do that shit. So I think something like this would be quite logical. And then we have to think of this as the starting point, this as the starting point where you are currently trading. So with that in mind, I wanted to point this out in a bit more detail, because a lot of people don't seem to be understanding what I mean with it's time for a new range. Then I simply mean BTC will be ranging and ETH should be that stronger pair. But we do have to be looking at those logical levels, of course. So what do we have on ETH on a lower time frame? We also have some sort of range forming. So BTC currently at that range low, which it is the New York Open right now. So this could be that New York sweep, reclaim, back up. So again, that setup, this, right? We want these two to be explosive because otherwise we could get some shit like this, right? Where we instead roll over. We want this push back above this one, right? Whether the pullback is getting here, we just want it to hold its current low because we don't want the sweep of the sweep of the sweep because that's just a break, right? We want a sweep and a reclaim. So we currently seem to be getting this, so I will try to upload this video a bit quicker. But for ETH, yeah, I've already stated my bias. There's really not that much to change about. Yeah. Yeah, I think we will be we will be grid trading, it looks like, guys. Because it does not seem to be reclaiming. Nope, this doesn't seem like a reclaim, my guys. Yep, it seems like this is that break. So, like I stated, these levels to watch that lower time frame, look at that previous day, well, today's open actually. Well, excuse the. So today's open could be a logical point to get some sort of short-term bounce and look at these high volume points, right? Which these already are in confluence, so which is also why I've drawn this range low right here, yes? Because we see that pretty much is the end of the value, meaning the end of that high volume part. And then again, we could trade into this. What do you see again? Your previous consolidation. This is the concept why I tell you guys, when price is doing something like this, when it pulls back, we look at these parts and these parts, because these are those moments where the most amount of volume is traded, which is why I explain this staircase logic in such a way where I say, look at those previous staircases because they usually become a support later or in the opposite direction. So support could become a resistance later, of course. So wanted to refresh your minds again about that point. So yeah, it is slowing a bit down, to be honest. No, I don't think there is really a clear trade to be added into the video. Yeah, it could be quite risky actually, but yeah. Yep. Oh, fuck. You already see like 15 seconds late, right? I just wanted to point out that this could be a decent sized trade where we have to be a little bit more precise with this management. Because here, what do we want? We want to see a reclaim. So if it doesn't really push above this on like the second attempt, I would cut this, meaning if we get some shit like this, right, then this would be the time for me to cut the trade. But if we get back above this level, I don't see why this should not play out. So, yeah, it's already briefing quite fast. So the video took a bit longer than expected. I hope you guys liked it. Wanted to point out that New York Open, what again did we have? Ramp up into it. We get volume on the downside. We get that sweep, right? And now we are getting that reclaim. So I hope you guys liked today's video. If you guys want me to add anything into this or that you would like to see me making these videos like a maximum of 50 minutes, make sure to drop it down in the comments. And if you have any other questions, make sure to let me know. So with that having said, guys, Alien out. Goodbye.